Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of Professional Advisors Millennial Money series, where we discuss the financial issues that matter most to the millennial generation and those looking to advise them. I'm Hannah Godfrey, and joining me this week are two millennials on the inside. Penguin Wealth trainee financial advisor Tom Davies and Informed Choice trainee financial advisor Andy Bodman. Welcome guys, and thank you so much for being here. This week we will dive into the minds of the millennial advisor, how and why they got here, where they see the profession going, and how they think it best to appeal to millennials. First things first, can I just ask you two how old you are?
So I'm 26.
I'm 21.
And what made you want to get into the industry? How was your kind of route in?
Go for it. So I was, by accident really, sort of coming up to the end of secondary school, A-level education, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so a family friend who has a financial planning firm offered me a week's work experience. So went across, did that, absolutely loved it. I mean, being sat in a meeting room with a client who is being told they can afford care for the rest of their lives and then breaking down in tears was sort of my big moment. It was like, yes, I want to do that for a living. I want to be able to tell people that, change people's lives. So came back and applied to the first place, and yeah, that was Informed Choice.
How about yourself?
So I was in university and I did a voluntary placement in between second and third year of uni, and was with a lot of people who were telling me I had to get work experience, otherwise when you come out the other end of uni you're not just going to walk straight into a job like I think a lot of people think they're going to. So I googled financial advice firms in Cardiff because I was doing a finance and investment degree, and Penguin Wealth was the first one that came up. So I worked with them for 8 months whilst I was in uni, and then they offered me a job at the end. So again, by accident, as I think pretty much everybody who does financial advice is, it's not really a direct path. So purely by fluke, and I've been there ever since.
Fantastic. And has there been any kind of real bumps along the road or challenges that you've faced so early on in your careers?
For me, it's been exams. So not necessarily passing ones the first time, and then questioning yourself whether it's really the career for you. If you're failing an exam twice and you know you have to pass the exam to be deemed a financial advisor or to be allowed to give financial advice, and you're trying to question it whether it's the right thing for you, should I be looking at something else? But when you pass an exam at the end, it's all made all worth it, and so those are the only real stumbling blocks I've had so far.
Yeah, no, failure of exams is a big one, but you sort of got to get to it that failure is just not going back and passing the exam in the end. Stumbling blocks, I guess age could be one. We're quite young and people don't want to give their life savings or their potential retirement in the hands of someone that's very, very young.
That's a very, very good point, actually. And what about your medium to long-term plans?
Becoming a financial planner full-time, and then becoming good at that. Long-term, it's a long way away, but I guess trying to help other young people come into the industry, because I mean there's not a huge amount of us. If you look around at a conference, and well, some more young blood would be good, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I want to get to chartered status quite quickly. So I've just passed my last exam, so now I want to go on and, whilst it's all fresh and textbook ready, go on and do the next one, because what the book tells you and in actual real life it can be two quite different things. So whilst I'm used to how the textbook does things, I want to go on and do chartered and just try and be as qualified as I possibly can. And then long term, I guess potentially having your own firm at some point down the road.
So looking to the profession, you've kind of vaguely touched on this. How do you see it changing as you guys obviously grow up, get older, and you get to the position that the vast majority of advisors are in now, which is obviously in their 50s?
With technology, I think the more you put in, the better, to a point where when you get people our age coming in, the reason that I don't think there's much of it getting used at the moment is because, like you said, most financial advisors are white men in their 50s. You're not necessarily going to get them. They're people who are now looking at their retirement and going, well, what's the point of me spending thousands on bringing tech into my firm when I'm just going to go and sell my client bank to somebody else? I don't really care. So I think it's up to people like us and people who, we're quite a young firm as well, and all our advisors are full. I think 41's the oldest. So it's up to firms like that to just look forward rather than thinking, why do I care? It's not going to help me, so I'm going to go. You need to try and look forward as much as possible, try and integrate it where you can.
I do see tech playing a larger role in the future. I'm not sure we're going to be completely gotten rid of, but no, I do see it playing an integral role. With regard to things that might crop up in the future that have gone wrong, obviously defined benefit transfers is always going to be one that will come back to bite. But I think cash flow as well is going to be one that's interesting in the future. I mean, yes, it's a necessary part of the advice process, but at the same time, such small amendments to the assumptions used will have a massive change long term. And so we might see that sort of the conflict of that playing out in a few years' time.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. I think as well, the fact with contingent charging, I think it's going to change, where you've got, I'm giving somebody advice who's got £1 million is paying 10 times more than if they've got 100,000. And I can see people just going away from that because the advice given is based on your expertise and your knowledge. So why should it be 10 times more expensive for somebody who has 10 times more money? And same with an ongoing charge of, say, you've got your annual fee. Why should that be 10 times more for somebody who has 10 times more money when you're potentially given exactly the same advice? So I can see that potentially changing in the next couple of years as well.
So what would you say is the biggest threat to advice right now? Advice kind of as we know it, let's say.
I'd say bad press is crippling people, as in outside of the industry press, where you're getting, if it's not, so like RDR a few years ago, where it was all about commissions and things are coming out, then you're getting bad DB transfers coming up in the papers, and it's just anything that's based around the financial industry, if it's in mainstream media, is generally not positive, and I think that's only going to turn people off from getting advice. So as soon as you tells them you're a financial advisor, they think, oh, finance, therefore 2008 was your fault. That sort of thing, I think, is going to be a bit of a negative.
So is this threat to advice as we know it now, or threat to advice on the whole?
Whichever you feel like answering, to be honest.
Well, threat to advice as we know it now, we've already spoke about technology a lot, and that will have a massive impact on the industry, I think. But I don't think it's all that bad. It's change, and those who change survive. So.
And financial advice certainly feels like it's kind of light years behind certain other professions. You know, I've heard whispers and noise that, you know, people like Facebook are looking to get into this sort of industry and create various programs and whatnot, even faster than those already in the industry are. So it's definitely one to look out for. I agree with you. Is there anything in the profession that you think could be improved? Let's try not to focus on tech too. I've got a specific bit where I'm going to talk to you about technology. But yeah, is there anything that you can really see right now that isn't done very well and you think some new eyes on it could better it?
Contingent charging, absolutely. It needs to change, and the sooner the better. Contingent
charging for everything, or for just DB transfers, or?
Everything, really. If you've got a fixed fee basis, then it's transparent. The client knows what they're getting in for up front. There's no hidden charges, and it's a lot fairer.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's quite difficult to imagine why, from a consumer's point of view, putting yourself in the client's shoes, why it's trying to rationalise it from their side of things. I wouldn't necessarily want to move to the way it's with solicitors where you hourly rate, because then you've got the problem of you just sort of people dragging their heels just to try and get paid. So it's going to be a difficult one, but I can see that in the next 10 years, I'd say, would be just everything would be flat fee.
Stereotypically, we're all very into social media. Yeah. Young people, it's what we do. We all have multiple accounts on multiple platforms. As we are so active on these platforms, do you think when it comes to wanting to attract millennials to give advice, it's as important to kind of be active on social media as a professional rather than just yourselves? Or do you think it doesn't matter that much?
Yeah, no, it matters a lot. I think as we were having a conversation in the office the other day, I think 30% of our new business comes from social media and websites. So it's there to stay, and it needs to be utilised. The more you utilise it, the better. We're millennials. We want advice that is available, that's easy to access, and that's cheap, and I think social media is a way of working with that.
By having it on social media, it can speed up the process quite a lot. We've only recently, in the last couple of months, started really pushing on Facebook and LinkedIn, and have got our first couple of leads come through in the last few weeks. So it's something that we can see is actually working, and it's, like I said, it is younger people who are coming through. It's not your 65-year-olds, obviously, but you're getting young business owners who are coming through, with people who are just there flicking through on their phone and see, okay, maybe I'll have a look at this. And it can only be for them, it's 15 seconds, they put an email address in, and it's a throwaway thing rather than having to go and Google and have to find a friend who knows somebody, and it just takes so long, I think. And just social media can speed the whole process up.
I agree. I think things quick and easy as possible is kind of the most efficient way to do things. Do you think there's any one platform that's better to use in that way than others?
I think potentially YouTube be something that could be interesting for the industry as like informational. Informational, that's not weird. But you know what I mean, as in like informative videos, etc. could be quite an avenue for somebody.
That's a good idea because I haven't seen anyone. I know various advisors have podcasts and things like that, but I haven't seen anyone making use of YouTube yet.
No.
But maybe that's a really good one for the even youngers when they.
We started doing it at Penguin a little bit, where we're doing videos to clients, so explaining, say there's a dip in the markets, saying don't worry, this is happening for this reason, and then I think there's something we might look into over the next couple of months, maybe doing a series of them, like I said, doing a podcast, maybe not every week, but doing a couple of months of just explaining what financial advice is and how it works.
How has it been received so far, the YouTube videos?
We've got positive feedback for them. They've got better, because obviously, as you can imagine, from a bunch of financial advisors who are in their mid-40s, not very tech savvy, the first couple are pretty awful. But we've now got a new marketing guy in who's very good at videos and social media and Photoshop and all that kind of thing, and he's brought it all in. We've now got our own lights and green screens and all that sort of thing, and it's going to be getting better. So it'll be interesting probably the next 6 months to see what the results are, if it brings clients in, how clients view it, if they find it helpful, if they find it a bit annoying. We just have to wait and see, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's really, really interesting. That's honestly, I haven't heard of anyone else doing that.